Avatar is known for many things and is viewed in an overwhelmingly positive light. And one of the many great things about Avatar, specifically The Last Airbender, is the dynamic between characters. Whether it be between two characters or an entire group, this show has many masterfully written character dynamics, and those dynamics tend to humanize the characters, even the antagonists. These moments that humanize the characters are what fleshes out the characters and gets people invested. And I think the episode that best humanizes the characters is The Beach. This episode, as I'm sure you know, is about Team Azula, consisting of Azula, May, Tyly, and Zuko, spending their day being dysfunctional at a beach. From May's gloomy personality to Azula not having any social skills and being, well, Azula, we get to see that through all the stuff these characters do throughout the story, they're still teenagers. I want to start with the two supporting antagonists of the story, May and Tyly. These two having less important roles in the story than a main character and a primary antagonist shouldn't be mistaken as a lack of character. First one up is May. May, since her introduction, has been apathetic, gloomy, and rarely shows much emotion. When they were at the beach, she kept to herself until Zuko sat next to her. She's observant to other people's behaviors, noticing throughout this episode Zuko wasn't all there. Also, she brushed off the corny seashell gesture. This episode tells us why May has a gloomy, borderline antisocial personality, and why she joined Azula in her hunt for the Avatar. May found her life as a part of the Fire Nation high society boring and stifling. The oppressive code of conduct that she had to live by as the only child at the time and daughter of a Fire Nation governor forced her to hold her personality back. She was allowed to have anything so long as she behaved in accordance with her status. She found this upbringing boring. That boredom didn't just push her to joining Azula, but it also got her into knife throwing, which is why she's so skilled at it in Avatar. She needed something to pass the time. Next up is Tyly. Tyly is actually one of my favorite characters in Avatar. Irrelevant, but I felt like saying it. Tyly is a bubbly, energetic acrobat whose movements could convince me she's an airbender. While she usually comes off very warm and inviting, there's plenty of crisis behind that smile. What we learn in this episode is that Tyly has an issue with her identity. Growing up with 6 identical siblings, Tyly struggled with her sense of individuality, always feeling like a part of a set. Part of that bubbly personality is probably something that she uses to set herself apart from her siblings. I say that because she's not particularly nice to the guys that hang out around her, and even knocks out a crowd of them at a party, which, fair enough, they were doing too much. But it seems at times the facade breaks and she gets overwhelmed by what's going on around her, and I believe she developed this personality to set herself apart from her siblings. It was also that lack of a sense of individuality that led her to joining the circus. She wanted to be somewhere where she could stand out. This part of her character gets payoff in the end with her joining the Kyoshi Warriors. She's comfortable being herself even in an identical collective. Now for Zuko and Azula. I'm letting it be known I'm giving these characters multiple videos in the future, but they have moments in this episode and I still want to talk about them. For the leader of these hooligans we have Azula. Throughout the episode, she had shown that in some ways, she wants to have normal connections to people. Between her egregious attempts at flirting and her and Zuko's mom talking about her like she's a monster, there does seem to be a part of her that wants to have normal connections, but her controlling personality, inability to relate to others, and psychopathic tendencies get in the way of that. Her lack of ability to genuinely connect with others will come back to bite her in the ass at the Boiling Rock, where her 2 friends end up betraying her for people they genuinely care about. We see the crux of Azula's personality when they're going to play volleyball. She's calculating, cunning, takes advantage of other people's weaknesses, and accepts nothing less than absolute victory. And you get all of that just from her analyzing somebody's past injury as a kid, and then proceeds to decimate them in volleyball. And finally, for everybody's favorite redeemed character, Zuko. This episode shows Zuko at the precipice of his full switch to the other side. He isn't quite gang yet, but this episode shows him teetering on that edge. We also get some of the most raw emotion we get from Zuko, specifically when they're around the fire. Zuko being forced to face his own mental state, his frustrations with the current situation, his confusion about why he doesn't feel happy, or even content after being welcomed home by Ozai. the one person's approval he's been seeking for years. The importance of this episode in Zuko's arc can't be overstated, but this character needs his own video, and I'll do that in due time. And that's what I've got for today. Have a nice day, subscribe, and I'll catch you later.